Good afternoon, everybody. Now our topic is liberty or freedom.
Afternoon, ma'am.
Our topic is liberty or freedom. Human history provides many examples of the people suffering and commitment for their liberty or freedom. India also once achieved its freedom in the year 1947. Lot of the freedom fighters worked for to gain freedom for India. That's why uh, several freedom fighters struggle against the domination of from the British people. So, what is the freedom? Where people tolerate lot of the sufferings for the word liberty or freedom. Where people, what is this freedom for which people have been willing or sacrifice and die? That the ideal of the freedom. Nelson Mandela from the South Africa, he wrote a book, Long Walk to Freedom. In his book, he elaborates his personal feelings, personal struggle against the apartheid regimes in South Africa, about the resistance of his people to his separatist policy of the white regime. Lot of the peoples are deprived from their right to liberty or equality. In the same way, Aung San Suu Kyi from the Myanmar, he also fought a non-violence revolutions in Myanmar, and he remains in the house arrest for several years. At that time, she was not allowed to meet his son and her ill husband also. She wrote a book named Freedom from Fear, and she says in her books, for me, real freedom is freedom from fear, and unless you can live free from fear, you cannot live a dignified human life. That's why liberty or freedom is an essential condition for the all-round development of the people in a society. If we are not free, we can't develop ourselves properly. So liberty is considered a core concept and a fundamental democratic value in the modern political and social theory. And it is also essential element for the formation of modern civil societies and political authority. Marxists are critical of the liberal notion of the liberty. The idea of the liberty as a core principle of the liberal thought, the principle of the liberalism in the liberal thought, uh, here the principles of the liberty occupies the important place. Here the individual is a rational individual. He knows what is good for him or her and what is bad for him or her, because he has the rational qualities to separate what is good and bad. Shortly, liberty means absence of the restriction or restraint, means the notion of the liberty emerged in the context of the establishment of a new socio-economic and political relationship in modern society. During the time of the France revolutions, there was a cult named rights, liberties, and equality. So this liberty means absence of the restriction or restraint, means freedom. So we have to enjoy our liberty and let the other people to live in a proper manner. There should not be any hindrances from our side that the other sides will hamper in our behavior. आमे निजे आम लिबर्टी को एंजॉय करबा एंड अदर पीपल को भी तांकर लिबर्टी एंजॉय करबार सुजोग देबा ओके दैट इज द लिबर्टी in order to develop his capacities the individual required freedom from all kinds of the social political economic constraint if we live in a liberal society or free society, if there is absence of the restraint in the sphere, in the economic sphere, in the political field, or in other sectors, that individuality is the properly developed. Different types of theorists, named social contractualists like Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, Rousseau put forth the idea of the liberty as absence of the constraint or restriction. At the same time, they also proposed the framework within which the individual freedom was to unfold. The individual in the state of nature, they are to some extent free, but after the formation of the state, the individual within the restriction, within the periphery of the rules, regulations, laws and order, he or she enjoys the rights of liberty. The meanings of liberty. As mentioned in the introduction, liberties means freedom from or absence of the restraint. A person may be considered free or at liberty to do something when his or her action and choices are not hindered or constrained by those of another. It is important to understand that constraint or restriction refers to impediment imposed by political and other authorities. No society will therefore have unlimited right to the liberty. कौनसी सोसाइटी रे आमे अनलिमिटेड फ्रीडम एंजॉय करि पारिबा नाही सो each society will have a set of restrictions on the liberty which are justified by the fact that people accept this restriction as the best possible conditions in which liberty could be maximized. There are two notions of the liberty or two types of the liberty. One is positive liberty and other is negative liberty. So what is negative liberty? Negative liberty means totally there is no restrictions in enjoying liberty. Whatever the person do, whatever the person perform in his or heart, there is totally not any obstacle. So the individual is totally free to do whatever he want to do. That is the negative. That is the positive types of liberty. Negative nature of the liberty appears in two different senses. In the first, law is seen as the main obstacle of freedom. If there is law, everybody have to obey the rules and the regulation. For example, Thomas Hobbes, a social contractualist, described freedom as the silence of the law. If there is law, then we can enjoy our freedom in a proper manner. And such a view sees freedom as limited only by what others deliberately prevent individual from doing the bad work. We have to enjoy our freedom and let the other people to enjoy their freedom also. For this understanding would therefore appear to imply a definite limit both law and government. Other philosophers like John Locke pointed out that a commitment to liberty does not mean that law should be abolished. If law should be abolished, there is liberty. No. We should enjoy our liberty on the periphery of law. Rather, it means that law should be restricted to the protection of one's liberty from enforcement by other. So, law suggested therefore that laws does not restrict liberty. It rather enlarges and defend it. Then the second principle, second view is that liberty as freedom of choice. Milton Friedman, in his book Capitalism and the Freedom, proposes that economics freedom consists of freedom of choice in the marketplace. Freedom of choice in the marketplace. The freedom of consumers to choose what to buy, how they have to trade, the freedom of the workers to choose their jobs or profession, what profession they have to perform, and freedom of the producer to choose what to produce, whom to employ, etc. To choose implies that individual can make unhindered and voluntary selection from a range of different options. Individual has the choice to choose what it have to produce, how it have to, or whom it have to employ also. While talking about liberty, a distinction is often made between negative and positive liberty. That is between idea of the absence of external restriction or constant and existence of conditions which enable or facilitate. The negative conception of the liberty is characterized of a stand of the different political thinker names Jeremy Bentham, J.S. Mill, James Mill, Henry Sidgwick, Herbert Spencer, etc., and other classical and neoclassical economists who supported the claims of the individual to break free from unnecessary restriction of arbitrary government. Because on the periphery of the restriction of the government, we have to enjoy our liberty. Then J.S. Mill's notion of liberty. J.S. Mills provides his notions of the negative liberty. In the year 1960s, the notions of the liberty on liberty was an influential topic in the academic debate. Mill's work is seen as an exposition of the negative concept of liberty. At the basics of the Mill's argument for individual freedom lay a strong sense of contempt for custom. There should not be custom, legal rules and laws. All this the negative liberties yes means and discuss this liberty that concept of the negative liberty terms that the people have to obey the custom, legal rules and laws. I have negative liberty. It also sometimes argues that for me, any creation, no matter how immoral, had some element of virtue in it, and it was freely performed. Will consider restriction or restraint on individual actions evil, and he did not consider restriction to be entirely unjustifiable. Restriction is justifiable because without a restriction, there may be violative situation. For example, we everybody have our right to walk in road and ride in a bicycle or any other vehicle. But we should not hamper the rights of the other person. We should not hamper the rights of the other person to go in that road also. For Mill, the purpose of liberty was to encourage the attainment of individuality. According to Mill, the main aim of the liberty was to encourage the individual for the attainment of the individuality. So what is individuality? Individuality refers to the distinctive and unique character of each human individual. It is the most important nature of every individual, and freedom means the realization of his individuality. Here, Here, freedom. Here, freedom means the realization of this individuality, that is personal growth of self-determination. Every individual has the right for their own development, for their personal growth, to, for their own development. Mills and other liberals emphasized a demarcation of the boundaries between individual and the society. They separate the boundaries between the individual and the society while talking about reasonable or justifiable restriction of individual liberty. J.S. Mill distinguished between self-regarding action and other regarding action. Self-regarding action and other regarding action. What is self regarding action? Self regarding action affected the individual only. Self regarding action affected the concerned individual only. But what is other regarding action? Other regarding action affected the society at large. It affected almost all the peoples in a society. Any restriction or interference with an individual could be justified only to prevent harm to other. If there is some restriction of the individual, then it is this activity have to be justified if it prevent to harm the other. If there is harm to the other, that it is not rational. That it is not rational behavior. Or over actions that affected only himself, the individual was sovereign. Such an understanding of legal and social constraint convey the idea of a society in which the relationship between individual and society is not paternal. That is, the individual being the best judge of his interest, laws, and society could not interfere to promote a person's best interest. The society should not hinder or interfere in the ways of the individuals, in the best interest of individual. Similarly, the idea that an act can be constant only if it harm other. The idea that an act can be constant only if it harm other. If some activities which harm others, then this type of the activity can be stopped. This rules out the idea that some acts are immoral and therefore must be punished irrespective of whether they affect anyone or else. If some activity are bad and it harm the other people, then this type of the activities must be punished irrespective of their condition or status. Furthermore, this remark rules out utilitarian principle as defined Jamie Bentham is a utilitarian philosopher who always justified that maximizations of the goods thing, maximization of the pleasures and minimization of pain. It always calculates the pleasures and pain in a quantitative manner. Isaac Berlin and the two concepts of the liberty. Another thinker, Isaac Berlin, the name of his book, The Two Concepts of Liberty, and that book was published in the year 1958. It tries to reconcile the negative and positive notions of liberty. से negative concept and positive concept of liberty को निश्चय दावा क्यों देती है? That is that the notion of liberty is the absence of restriction or restraint with the various views pertaining to its operations within the social context. For the negative notions of the negative notions of the liberty can be understood by addressing the following question. What is negative notion of liberty or what is negative liberty? He answered this question. He answered this
Excuse me, ma'am.
question. Yes.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, actually, your video is not available. You are also not live on the camera. You are not audible, ma'am. Your voice is not clear, sir.
The Mill in his book, sorry, Isaac Berlin, in his book, The True Concept of Liberty, that book was first published in the year 19. Isaac Berlin and the True Concept of Liberty. Isaac Berlin, a philosopher, a political philosopher, he wrote a book, the name of the book is True Concept of Liberty. That book was first published in the year 1900. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible and now clear.
Okay, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Now we are reading Isaac Berlin and the True Concept of Liberty. Page number 39. Page number 39. Isaac Berlin wrote a book. The name of that book is Two Concept of Liberty, and that book was first published in the year 1958. Isaac Berlin tried to reconcile the negative and positive notions of the liberty. He tried to mix the negative notions with the positive notions of liberty. That is, the notions of the liberty is the absence of the restriction or restraint with the various views pertaining to its operations within the social context. So, what is negative liberty? And what is positive liberty? He mixed both the notion. Negative liberty means absence of restriction or restraint or constraint. But positive liberty means there should not be any restrictions. The individual is free to do whatever he like. Okay. So for Berlin, the negative notions of the liberty can be understood by addressing the following question. He put a question that what is the area within which the subject, a person or group of person, each or should be left to do or be what he is able to without interference by other persons. The society consists of lot of the individual, a lot of the people. And what is the area within which the subject, a person or group of person is or should be left to do or be what is able to be without interference by other persons. We can't live in a society without interference of the other person because integrated life, adjustment life, collective life is necessary. On the other hand, positive sense is concerned with the answers to the questions. He answered in the positive sense. In his positive views, he answers that question. On the other hand, the positive sense is concerned with the answer to the question that what or who is the source of control, who is the source of control or interference that can determine someone to do or be this rather than that. Means with answers to the question, he said that what or who is the source of control, who control us, who is or who are controlling us, or interference that can determine someone to do. By the acts of the rules and the regulations, we have to act in a proper manner. If there is rules and if there is no rules and the regulations, there may be revolutions. The people may not obey the rules and the regulations. It may turn to rules or laws of the jungle. Okay, so positive liberty on the other hand does not interpret freedom as simply being left alone, but a self-mastery. If I do whatever I want to do, self-mastery. ମୁଁ ଯାହା ଚାହୁଁଛି ତାହା ଯଦି କରିବି, that is not freedom. I have to act in a moral way. I have to do on the periphery of the law and order, under the rules and the regulations. The theory, the self-mastery. The theory involves a social theory of self. The personality is divided into a higher and lower self. The individual personality, the total personality of the individual is divided into higher self and lower self. So what is higher self? The higher self is the source of an individual's genuine, individual potential and rational long-term goal. Higher self is the source of an individual genuine and rational long-term goals. How the individual are in a position to achieve rational goals or long-term goals. That is the higher self. But while the lower self pairs to his irrational desires, which are short-lived. The irrational desires of the individual are short-lived and to transmit in nature. So a person is free to the extent that his higher self is in command to his lower self. Always the higher self of an individual or persons commands the lower self of individuals or the people. Okay. Then Marxist critique and the idea of the freedom. The Marxist thinker, they criticize the notions of the liberal principle. They criticize the libertarian principles of the liberty. The Marxist concept of the freedom is different from the liberal view which have been discussed above. The main point of difference emerges from the Marxist understanding of individual and the society. The relationship between the individual and society, and the Marxist critique of a capitalist society. Always the Marxists criticize the capitalist economy, the capitalist society, because In the capitalist society, they said that the society is divided into two sections. One is rich section, other is poor sections of the society. Always the rich sections of the society exploited the poor sections of the society. That's why they criticized the capitalist economy or capitalist society. While the liberal view is based on the centrality of the individual, always the liberal view or libertarian principle, they put the individual on the center. They term that the individual is the central thing. The individual is a rational people. He do what he knows that what is good for him or her and what is bad for him or her. He knows for the better all-round development of the individual because individual is a rational individual. He or she has the freedom of the choice. Liberal view is based on the centrality of individual and his freedom of the choice. But Marxists should see notion of liberty based on liberal notion of the individual and society is conditions of own freedom. The liberal notions of freedom and liberty, according to Marxists, they term that it is not freedom, but it is on freedom. For Marxists, the individual is not separated from other individuals. For Marxists, the individual is not separated from other individuals in a society. According to Marx, according to Marxists, said that all individuals are equal in a society. In a society, if there is segregation, if there is division, then that society, that type of the state should not exist. There should be a stateless society. All are equals in the Marxist society. For Marxists, the individual is not separated from other individual in society by boundaries of autonomous space for the free exercise of choice. They are rather bound together in mutual dependence. One individual have to depend on other individual to function in a society. There must be mutual interdependence between or among the individual. And in that society, if some individual is the inferior and the some individual are superior, then the peoples are not in a position to enjoy liberty according to Marxist. The notion of individuality is likewise transformed into the notion of rich individuality, which emphasizes the social embeddedness of the individual. The idea that individual can reach a state of creative excellence and develop their capacities only in a society which seeks the development of all its members. If there is development of some members in a society, then that society is not developed. There should be the development of almost all the members of a society. For the Marxist, freedom lies in the development of the creative individuality. Freedom lies in the development of creative individuality and cannot be achieved in a capitalist society. This creative individuality cannot be achieved in a capitalist society where individuals are separated by boundaries of self-interest. In the capitalist society, the individuals are separated by the boundaries of self-interest and where they can only imagine themselves to be free within reality. They are bound by structure of exploitation. In that type of the capitalist society, one individual is always exploited by the other individual, and in their society, there is no freedom. There is no freedom. There is no liberty. It is only in a society which is free from the selfish promotion of the private interest. The capitalist society or capitalist economy is always try for the promotion of the selfish interest and the private interest. So, according to Marxist, there is nationalization of the private property. There is no personal property. All the properties are belongs to the state, belongs to the government. So, freedom thus cannot be achieved in a capitalist society, according to Marxist. Friedrich Engels and another philosophers. The name of his book is Anti-Durings, and Karl Marx books, Economics and Philosophics manuscript, which was published in the year 1844. Engels discusses the notions of the freedom as a state of transition from necessity to the freedom. The state of necessity is defined by a situation in which the individual is subjected to another will. Always there is the importance of the matter. In his work manuscript, Karl Marx avers that the capitalist society is dehumanizing. Okay, in the capitalist society, it not only alienates or separates the individual from his true self, it separates him from the creative influence of the society. It separates the individual from the creative influence of the society. Okay. Now, page number 42. Other contemporary ideas on the liberty, other ideas of the liberties. Apart from Berlin, whose work is perhaps the most significant among the contemporary works on liberty, there are other thinkers in the world who have discussed the idea of liberty in elaborating upon the ideas expressed by the thinkers, both sides of ideological divide, that is Marxist sides and capitalist sides. Another thinker named Milton Friedman, like J.S. Mill and Berlin, he was a liberal. Milton Friedman was a liberal thinker, and his work, Capitalism and Freedom, developed a notion of liberty as a significant aspect of capitalist society. The notions of the liberty and freedom is a significant aspect of a capitalist society and capitalist economy. The freedom of exchange was an essential aspect of liberty. If there is no freedom of the exchange, we are not in a position to enjoy liberty. To promote this freedom, freedmen require the state to give up its concern for welfare and social security and to devote itself to maintaining law and order, protecting property rights, implementing contracts, etc. So, freedom is necessary elements for the promotion of the social security, for the promotion of the social welfare in the society, and maintaining the laws and the order, rules and the regulations in the society. For freedmen not only was liberty essential for free and voluntary exchange among individuals, it it only was liberty essential for free and voluntary exchange of individual if it was only within a capitalistic society that free and voluntary of the individual and free and voluntary exchange of the goods and the services it can be possible, and these things can be achieved. So that after that the freedom in a society can be achieved, or liberty is an individual are in a position to achieve liberty. Moreover, it was economic freedom that provided the opportune and essential condition for political liberty. Always the economic freedom are necessary for enjoyment of the political liberty. And another thinker, F.A. Hayek, he wrote a book, The Constitution of the Liberty in the year 1960. Has propounded a theory of liberty. He propounded a theory of liberty which emphasizes the negative role of state. Here, the state have to perform a negative role. F.A. Hayek wrote a book, The Constitution on the Liberty, and in this book, he emphasized the negative role of the state. If there is negative role of the state, then people can enjoy freedom. For Hayek, a state of the liberty is achieved when the individual is not subject to the arbitrary will of another individual. The individual achieves freedom and the individual are liberals when the individual are not subject to the arbitrary will of other individual. They should be free. Others' arbitrary will should not be imposed upon one individual. Hacks calls this individual freedom and distinguishes it from other forms of the freedom, establishing at the same time the primacy and independence of individual liberty from other forms of the freedom. Individual liberties and other he differentiate between individual liberty and other forms or other types of the freedom, including political freedom. Hayek recommands that the original meaning of the liberty as the absence of restraint. He sets the original principles of the liberty, that is the negative liberty says that there is absence of the restraint should be preserved. There should be absence of the restraint, that is negative liberty. The enlargement of the state interventions in the names of the freedom would mean the demise of real liberty, which consists in the freedom of individual from the restriction or restraint. They all are the liberal thinkers and the views of the Marxist thinker. Other views of the Marxist thinker, they are influenced by the principles of the Karl Marx notion of the freedom, and that emphasized that liberty as practiced in modern capitalist societies breed loneliness. एका କରି ଦଉଛି. Then Eric Forman explained that in modern society, aloofness was brought about owing to the separation of the individual from his creative abilities and social relations. In the modern society, there is loneliness or aloofness was brought about owing to the separations of individual from his creative capacities and social relations. This separation generated physical and the moral aloofness. This type of the separation always generate physical and moral aloofness in the individual, affecting his mental well-being. All these are affect the mental well-being of individual. It was only through creative and collective work. The creative and collective works of the individual could restore himself in to a society. Always the creative works of the individual and collective work of the individual is necessary to restore a person in a society, to exist a person in a society. Herbert Marcuse, he wrote a book, One Dimensional Man, Studies in the Ideology of Advanced Industrial Society, and that book was written in the year 1968, also explores the nature of alienations of a capitalist societies. That is the alienations in the capitalist society. Marcuse asserts that creative multidimensional capacities of the individual gets found in a capitalist society. Multidimensional capacities, the creative qualities of the individual are suppressed in a capitalist society. So man is able to express himself only as a consumer. Man are express himself only as a consumer, engaged in the satisfaction of his physical needs. That also about liberty. Then our next unit is equality. Equality means samanata. Here in this paper, we will elaborate the concept of the equality, the basic principles of the equality, formal equality, etc. So, what is equality? Equality is a powerful moral and political ideas that has inspired and guided human society from many centuries. Always the society is in a hierarchical manner. There is different types of the layers in the society. All are not equal in a society. All the peoples are not equal in a society. Okay. It is implicit in all fact that religions which proclaim all human beings to be the creation of God, all are creations of the God, still all are not equal. As the political ideas, the concept of the equality invokes the idea that all human beings have an equal worth regardless of their labor, race, religion, and nationalities. It maintains that human beings deserve equal consideration and respect because of their common humanity. All should be equal because they are common human beings, because almost all the people are common or all are equal. The French Revolution also used the slogan of liberty, equality, and fraternity to revolt against the landed feudal aristocracy and monarchy. So it is inequality rather than equality which is most visible around us in the world. Nowadays, in the present world, we feel almost inequality rather than equality, as well as within our own society also. In our country, we can see slums existing side by side with the luxury housing. Behind the luxury housing, we found a lot of the small homes, that is slums, by the sides of a school with world-class facilities and air-conditioned classroom along with the schools which may lack even drinking water. There are existence of a lot of the school nearby air-conditioned classroom, and that other classroom that don't even have drinking water facilities. Is it equal? There is unequal conditions, the unequal situation in the society. Almost everyone accept the ideal of the equality here. Almost everyone we encounter inequality. We feel we want equality, still we enjoy and we feel there is inequality in the society. We live in a complex world of unequal wealth, opportunities, work situation, and power in the society, even in the workplace, work situation, opportunities and wealth, all are distributed in a unequal manner. So that all human beings will be entitled to the same respect and consideration because of their common humanity, because all are the creation of God. That's why during the time of the French Revolution in 1789, the American Civil War remained two very historically significant landmark in the articulation of the idea of democracy, equality, and freedom. Writings in the year 1931, R.S. Tawney lamented what he described as the religion of inequality in British society. He said that there is religions of the inequality in British society. That in lots of the countries gets independence in the 19th century uh, due to for the achievement of the equal status and equality in the society. In today's context, we could say that equality has been accepted as a very important principle of organizing human life. There should be equality to, to lead a quality life for the progress of the people, a much more continuous field in the application of the principle of the equality to the distribution of the wealth and income in the society. If there is equal distribution of the wealth in the society, no. So there is no equality. Different types of equality. First, formal equality. John Locke, the English philosopher, remains one of the most important defender of the idea of formal equality based on the natural equality of men. In the state of nature, all are equal. That is natural equality in the state of nature. The state of nature is that condition before the creation of the state. Before the creation of the state, all individuals are living in state of nature, and after that they form the state. Immanuel Kant reinforced this position further by talking about universality and equality as a consequences of universal humanity. Kant says that if there is no universality and no equality, then there is no universal humanity. That is formal equality. Thus, formal equality came to imply that by virtue of their common humanity, all individuals should be treated equally. That is formal equality. By virtue of common humanity, all individuals should be treated as equally. In the context, it would be appropriate to note that it was this inadequacy that we have to follow the views of the Marx to examine the question on his essay on the Jews question. He contended that formal equality, while being a significant step forward, could not bring about human emancipation. Formal equality is not leading the people for human emancipation. While the market did not free people from barriers imposed by the social rank, the market that market economy is not in a position to free people. It is not in a position to free people. It free people from the barriers imposed by the social rank and other similar categories. It nevertheless creates differences based on class and were upheld by the existence of the private property. If there is private property, then there is no equality according to Marxist. If there is private property, then there is no equality. There should be nationalization of the private property, then equality can be established in a Marxist society. This implied that individuals had strictly different market values, and hence Marxists describe formal equality in this context as market equality, which is little more than a facet to distinguish deeply unequal nature of society. Okay. Then equality of opportunity, page number 47. Equality of opportunity. What is equality of opportunity? Equality of opportunity means removal of obstacles, all hindrances that prevents personal or self-development. Removal of almost all the obstacle hindrances for the personal development of individual. It means that careers should be open to talents. The careers of the people should be open to the talent person, and promotion should be based on abilities, status, family connection, social background, and other similar factors must not be allowed to intervene. So equality of opportunity is an extremely attractive idea and is considered and is concerned with what is described as the starting point in life. Equality of the opportunity is almost a necessary condition for a balanced society, a stable society. The implication is that equality requires that all individuals begin from a level playing field. However, the consequences of this equality of the opportunity need not be egalitarian at all. The consequences of the equality of opportunity, that the consequences need not be an egalitarian at all. Precisely because everyone started equally, unequal outcomes are acceptable and legitimate. If there is equality of the opportunity, still we can't expect an egalitarian society, because if, if there is equality of the opportunity, still we faces unequal division of the society. This inequality would be then explained in terms of differing natural talents, ability to work hard, and even luck. If there is equality of the when there is equality of the opportunity, still we are not in a position to enjoy egalitarian society because of differing natural talents. The talents of the people are different. The ability to work hard also differ, and even the luck is different. Constructed like this, it seems that equality of the opportunity provides an equal opportunity to compete in a system that remains hierarchical. In a hierarchical order, in a hierarchical society, there should be equality of the opportunity. If so that it does not appear to be substantially egalitarian principle. Equality of the opportunity points to an inegalitarian society. Equalities of the opportunity, it would point an inegalitarian society, unequal society based on expected idea of the merit, that there is a merit principles. The person that have talent, the person that have merits, that he or she perform better position. This idea rests itself on the distinction between nature and convention. That argument being that distinction that emerge on the basis of different natural qualities like talent, skill, hard work, and so on are morally defensible. However, that is specific societal prediction that makes a natural distinction like beauty or intelligence relevant ground for making distinction in a society. So, on the place of the equality of the opportunity, we are not in a position to enjoy egalitarian or equal society due to the different in one quality, difference in the style of the working, or other. Equality of the opportunity is institutionalized through the acceptance of keeping careers open to talents. Equality of the opportunity institutionalized. If there is equality of the opportunity, then the talented people can enter in career, providing fair equal opportunities and the many of the variations of the principle of the positive discrimination. There should be positive discrimination. All of these work to make the system of the inequality seem reasonable and acceptable. The underlying assumption is that so long as the competition has been fair, if the competition is the fair, advantages itself is beyond criticisms. If there is fair competition, then it is beyond criticism. There is no doubt that a system such as this would create people who concentrate only on their talent and individual attributes. The robs them of any feeling of the community with their people because they can only think in terms of competing. Thus, the liberal position of the equality is based on equality of opportunity. The advocacy is contrary to any substantive idea of equality because these are opportunities which lead to unequal outcomes. This type of the equality of opportunities may arise unequal outcomes. This principle is thus unconcerned with the outcomes and is interested only in the procedures. This is entirely in keeping with the liberal idea that individuals are the basic unit of society, because the individual are the main element of society. Society must make it possible for individual to satisfy their own interest. In an egalitarian society would not deny to some people the genuine opportunity to develop their capacities. This egalitarian society never denied people the genuine opportunities to develop their capacities. The genuine egalitarianism use of this opportunity would be to lead a worthwhile life. Since it is not possible to ensure that each individual leads a worthwhile life, what, what egalitarians would try for would be the creation of social conditions that give the opportunity to all individuals to lead worthwhile lives. A worthy life. It provides opportunities for almost all the individual to lead a worthy lives. Equality of outcomes, page number 49. Equality of outcomes. And another articulation of the idea of the equality would be in terms of the equality of the outcomes. The outcomes should be equal. Moving away from the standing point in life to look at the outcomes. Karl Marx was of the opinion that any rights of the equality circumscribed by bourgeois economy can only be partial. The bourgeois economy, the capitalist economy it is a partial economy. It works only for the interest of capitalist class. Thus he argued for absolute social equality. So the Marxists argued for absolute social equality by abolishing state possible only, and all these are possible if only there is no private property. So they concentrate themselves for the abolition of the private property, and there should be nationalization of the private property. Defenders of the equality of the outcome believe that the guarantees of all other equalities would be inadequate so long as equality of the outcome is not ensured. Then some basic principles of equality. Egalitarians do not believe that everybody is same or should be same. The egalitarian, they says that they never believe that all have to be same. It is not a simple mathematical idea. It is not calculated equally. It would help us to put down some of the core principles that egalitarians would be committed to do. The first commitment is to the idea that every individual has a right to the satisfaction of his or her basic needs in the society. Every individual are committed to the idea that every individual has the right to the satisfaction of his or her needs. And a society characterized by wide disparities in the standard of living. If there is wide disparities, wide differences in the standard of living is not acceptable to them. They are committed to a society where living conditions are not just bearable, but are capable of providing a satisfying and fulfilling lives of all. And another significant principle is that equal respect, which implies opposition to any form of the degrading treatment or humiliating treatment or circumstances. Ideally, a society based on fellow killing. An egalitarian position would oppose huge differences in income. An egalitarian position would oppose huge differences in income and wealth, not only between individuals, but even between nations. It would also involve democratic control of the economy. It involves a democratic control of the economy. There should be democratic control of economy and at the workplace, apart from the possibility of dignified, interesting and safe work of everyone. Political equality is not just the right to vote or stand for any public office. It is not political equality, but a wide network of civil rights and a democratic participation in all aspects of the life of the individual are political equality. Sexual, racial, ethnic, and religious equality are some of the other components of complex idea of the equality. Men and the women are not equal in the society. There are different types of the revolutions are occurred in the present day also for equal position of men and women. Always the women are trying to raise their positions in society. Some arguments against inequality. Some argument against inequality. Equality is argued The argued is a concept that is untenable in reality because society and social processes are likened to a competition in which not everyone can end up being a winner. Though all the inborn quality of a persons are not same, how they stand in a equal manner. We have already noticed of objection earlier in the context of our discussions of equality of the outcome. What one would say in response is that this objection emerges out of specific construction of the nature of societies and the individual. In the present time, in the contemporary time, Hayek, Friedman, Nozick are associated with the position that holds egalitarianism as a threat to freedom. Nozick is particularly critical of the liberals like John Rawls and Dawkins for their commitment to welfare provisions in order to enlarge equality of opportunity. Okay. In response to those who say that inequality in the society undermines self-respect, libertarians like Nozick argue that, on the contrary, it is egalitarianism that robs people of their self-respect. Then, next principles, liberal justification of inequality, page number 50. Liberal justification of inequality. Liberal justification of inequality, page number 50. Liberals reject sex, race, or class as the relevant criteria for treating people differently. Liberals also rejects the place, sex, class, all these are not treating. All these are not relevant criteria of the people. There is the merit principles according to liberals. There is the merit principles. They do believe that it is just and the fair inequalities are earned and deserved by virtue of their different desire or merit. If some people are meritorious, then he can was high. Thus, liberal theory holds stood by that so long as inequality can be justified on the basis of the reward or desire for special qualities and abilities or special contributions. If some people are meritorious, they give special contributions to the societies. Special contributions to the society are circumscribed by specificities of the society in a question. Moreover, it is very difficult to isolate the worth of an individual contribution. Worth of an individual contribution, if one talks back after contributing, then is one really contributing anything at all. If the meritorious individual, they have talent and abilities. In recent times, however, modern liberals, John Rawls and Dawkins have rejected the merit and desire as a criteria for justifying inequality. John Rawls, he said equality that there is hill of ignorance, ଗୋଟେ କଳା ପଟି ତା ଆଗରେ ବାନ୍ଧି ଦିଆଯାଇଛି, and after that he provides certain principles for creating equality in the society. So John Rawls, he rejected the merit principles for justifying inequality. Instead, that advocate an equality of consideration based on equal moral worth of all individuals. They advocate equality for considerations based on equal moral worth of individual. If all individuals are moral, have equal moral worth, they all are equal, irrespective of their differing individual talents or skill, according to Rawls. They base this equality on the idea that all human beings are equally endowed with the ability to make choices and formulate life plans. Rawls rejects as morally arbitrary the distribution of the rewards according to the ability or merit or effort. For differences in abilities and skill, the contents are simply facts of nature, and no one is to gain or suffer because of the presence or absence of skill, abilities, or merit. So, called difference principle that Rawls said, the best principle for ensuring that natural assets do not lead to unfair advantages. That is the principles of John Rawls. The justice principle requires that social and economics, the justice principle requires that social and economic inequalities should be so arranged that they are both to the greatest benefit of the best advantages, the greatest benefits of the great advantages. Second principle, attached to offices and position open to all under the condition of fair equality of opportunity. Thus, unlike the traditional liberal rights, is a much wider understanding of the equality. Unequal rewards are justified not on the basics of the different abilities, not on the basics of the different abilities, but an incentive. Unequal rewards are not on the basics of different abilities, but it is a incentive so that they benefit the least advantages. Dawkins also expressed displeasure with traditional libertarian idea of equality and accepts the need for some redistribution and welfare policy. McPherson, the thinker, has criticized Rawls' principles of the equality on the grounds that it assumes the inevitability of institutionalized inequalities between the classes. So, Rawls ignores the fact that class-based inequalities creates unequal power relationship among individuals of different classes and would thus impinge on other aspects of equality. Then next point, equality and feminism. Now we elaborate equality on the periphery of the feminism. Feminists try to look at the issue of equality through gender lens. An important book in respect of Susan Okin's Justice, Gender and Family, and that book was wrote in the year 1980s. It has been argued that equal opportunities legislation or redistributive justice through the extension of the equality principle to different areas, in essence, cannot create equality as these rules and the principle operate in an environment which is already commitment to the inequality between the sexes and inequality brought about by social practices. The inequality between male and the female are performed in society. Many of these practices are not directly discriminatory towards women, but their overall effect is to reinforce inequality and give it to a veneer of legitimacy. Thus, through the laws may not formally differentiate between sexes. It is the cause of the women tend to get segregated into particular occupations, and married women who have careers are specially disadvantaged in a gender-biased society. The female are substantive, they perform substantive inequality, their work, their weak voice in the family matter, in the family decision-making matter, their duty of the child rearing and subsequent withdrawal from the labor market has nothing to do with natural and spontaneous operations of choices. They are also weak in economics, but because roles are socially constructed, all the roles performed by man and female all are socially constructed. However, at the same time, it would perhaps be resented even by the feminists if the state is involved, especially in family life, for eradicating gender discriminations. It is perhaps easier to be aware of gender equality and to locate into the social practices and socially structured role but it is difficult to go for remedial measures. Different type of the movements, women movement, male movements are going on in the present society, but unless the women themselves become aware of their inequality, the women should be aware of their inequality to their subordinate role in a family and come forward to reorient the social circumstances or social construction. They should work for reconstructing the society, nothing concentrate with respect to gender equality. Okay. Equality and liberty. Liberty is seriously hampered by wide disparities of the wealth. There is no equality if there is no liberty. Some person, if there is one educated person and if there is one uneducated person, and they should not be equal, because education, by opening our minds and educating us with various skills, is undoubtedly a liberating factor. That's all. Any doubts, clarifications? There is three dimensions of the equality. One is political equality, social equality, and economic equality. In a democratic society, political equality would normally include granting equal citizenship to all the members of state. All the members of the state enjoy the right to vote. They have equal citizenship, brings with it certain basic rights such as right to vote, freedom of the expression, movement and association, and freedom of belief. These are the rights which are considered necessary to enable the citizens to develop themselves and participate in the affairs of the state. That is the political equality. Other dimensions of the equality, it is social equality. Political equality or equality before the law is an important first step in the pursuit of the equality, but it is often need to be supplemented by equality of opportunities. While the former is necessary to remove the legal hurdles which might exclude people from the voice in government and deny them access to available social goods. Almost all the people should have equal status in the society. Article 17 said that there is abolition of discriminations. There is abolition of untouchability. Article 17 said that there is abolition of the untouchabilities because all people are equal. For this, it is necessary to minimize the effects of social and economic inequalities and grant certain minimum condition of the life to all members of the society. Adequate health care, the opportunities of the good education, adequate nourishment, and minimum wage, among other things. Then, third dimensions of the equality, economics equality. Economics equality, that at the simplest level, we should say that economic inequality exists in a society if there are significant differences in the wealth, income, property between individual and the classes. If there is different set of the income, property, wealth between the individuals and the classes. One way of measuring the degree of economic inequality in a society would be to measure the relative differences between the richest and the poor groups. with equal opportunities. Inequalities may continue to exist between individuals, but there is a possibility of improving one's positions in society with significant effort. Effort is necessary to achieve economic equality, social equality, and the political equality. We all are equal, but some time of the protective discrimination is provided for the suppressed section of the society. It is not inequality. They are given the special position, reservation, special status to, to raise high in the society. And affirmative action. I will elaborate now. Affirmative action. Affirmative action is based on the idea that it is not sufficient to establish formal equality by law. Affirmative actions mean some special privileges are provided to unprivileged sections of the society. That's why they can improve themselves. When we wish to eliminate inequalities, they are deeply rooted. It is necessary to take some more positive measures to minimize and eliminate interest forms of the social inequalities. First, we have to minimize social inequalities. At last, we can achieve equal society. Most policies of affirmative action are thus designed to correct the cumulative effort of past inequalities. The past inequalities we have to rectify by affirmative action. Affirmative action can, however, take many forms, from preferential spending on facilities for disadvantaged communities. Some specific spending are provided to disadvantaged sections of the society, such as scholarship, hostel facilities to special consideration for admission in the educational institution and jobs. In our country, we have adopted a policy of the quota or reserve seat in education and jobs to provide equality to opportunity to deprived groups, and this has been the subject of considerable debate and disagreement. So some special privileges should be given to the underprivileged sections of the society for their development. That is known as affirmative action. Doubts and clarification are invited. Any doubts? Ask question. Question for me.
Ma'am, I have no doubts. Can I leave?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
If you want to know your expected question, then you can wait. Expected question, I will tell you later.
Oh, okay, ma'am, I'm waiting.
Question, long question answer, short question answer. Message होगा. Expected question. Short question, right? What is equality? What is equality? And elaborate about formal equality. What is equality and elaborate about formal equality. Second question, differences. What is the differences between liberal and
Excuse me, ma'am.
yes?
Fast question. Fast question.
First question, what is equality? What is equality? And elaborate about or discusses about formal equality. Understand? And second question, what is the differences between liberal and Marxist notion of equality? What is the differences between liberal and Marxist notion of equality? Then question about equality and liberty. Then question about liberty. What is negative liberty and positive liberty? Make a distinction between negative and positive liberty. Make a distinction between negative and positive liberty. Next question discusses about J.S. Mill's notion of liberty.
Ma'am, can you repeat?
Yes, discusses about J.S. Mill's notion of liberty.
Ma'am, discuss about?
J.S. J.S. Mill concept or notions of liberty. Clear? The next question. What is Isaac Berlin's
Ma'am, can you please tell the spelling?
Isaac Berlin Berlin notion notion of the two concepts of liberty. Then next question discusses about Marxist critique. Marxist critique of the idea of freedom. Discusses about Marxist critique the idea of freedom. The next question, what is affirmative action? Affirmative action. How far, what is affirmative action? How far it is helpful to establish a egalitarian society or equal society.
Ma'am, can you repeat?
What is affirmative action? What is affirmative action? How far is it? How far is it helpful to establish an equal society? An equal society. That's all are your expected questions. Any other doubts or any problem?
No, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. In the next class, we will study justice and rights.
Ma'am, can I leave?
Okay, you can. Sir, sir. The, the class is over.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.